Hi and welcome to The Real Women of Boxing, episode 12, season 2. Today's guest, we go way back to the amateur game. Friend, WBC International Featherweight Champion, Raven Chapman. How you doing, Rave?
Hi, Jacqui. I'm really well, thank you. Bloody hell. When I saw you at the weekend and you're like, oh, we have to do that before picture and now picture, I was like, oh my God. That was a good... How long ago would that have been? Like 13 years ago?
God. Must be.
12? 14?
I don't know, but a long time. And you know what? So for the viewers, we did a training camp in, I didn't. I coached, she trained on a training camp in Tenerife, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was my first ever taste of a boxing camp. And I got to do it abroad, so it's pretty cool. And met you, and we had fun, didn't we? 2 weeks in Tenerife felt like a long time.
Yeah, it was great. And what was that mountain that I walked up and you ran up?
Oh yeah, TD, Mount TD. That's it. Yeah, the run. Oh, the infamous run. Yeah, that wasn't fun.
I think I got out of the car, did a little walk, and then thought, no, that's not for me.
No, I'll just stay in the car on the way up, pick up the straddlers.
Exactly. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how tired are you after your trip to Riyadh?
Oh my God, I think when I got home, I slept for about 10 hours that next day. Yeah, it was it felt like we were there for a lot longer. I think you got there the same day as me, didn't you? On the Wednesday. Yeah, literally felt like I'd been there for a whole week, and just thinking how tired everyone else must have been. You know, I wasn't even one of the boxers or running the show or anything like that, and I felt knackered. But it was a really good week. I thought it was a really good build up. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being a little part of it as well. And yeah, there's definitely some pinch me moments out there for sure. A lot of people were there, and it was just great to be in and amongst it, really.
Yeah, 100%. Genuine 50-50 fight. The headliners, Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, for the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship of the World. Tyson Fury was holding the WBC and the lineal heavyweight title ahead of the fight. Alexander Usyk was holding the WBA Super, IBO, IBF, IBC, and the WBO belts ahead of the fight. Oh my God. What a fight. What a fight!
Yeah, really great fight. I was glad because a lot of the time, you know, when it's the fights that people really want to happen, they either happen too late and they don't live up to expectations and things like that. But this fight actually did, which was good. Great for everyone, and great for the fighters involved as well. Yeah, really, really exciting fight, and what a great atmosphere there was too, which was, you know, really great to see, great to hear. The venue looked pretty much sold out. Loads of fans come over from the UK and around the world as well to support the main event and the other fighters. So yeah, I think it was a really great success and great fight, and I think a worthy winner in the end, for sure. Although, you know, I was rooting for Fury, and I thought he did really well the first 6 rounds, and then I think it was once he got that punch on their nose and it started going, it seemed to change after that.
So I had a word with Joseph Parker ahead of the fight, and listen, he genuinely, I asked him the question about what was different in this camp versus other camps, and he seemed very, very genuine about, you know, how much Tyson Fury put into the camp with regard to just training, taking his diet seriously, really focusing 100%. And I think that we saw such a great version of Fury on Saturday night. He was in great shape. He was proper nimble. I mean, he's always had good footwork, hasn't he? But he was proper on his toes and he was nimble, wasn't he? He was, oh, God. Yeah. Great upper trunk movement. Was getting himself out of trouble, using his feet and everything. Yeah, decent fight, I have to say. What did you like most about his work?
Well, I think it was one of them fights, like you said, Joe Parker saying he's taking it seriously. He's had to, because he's up against one of the other best there is. So you can see how he did take it seriously. Those first 6 rounds, when Fury is on and he looks good, wow, he looks so good. It was, you could see Usyk was getting frustrated, especially in those kind of early mid rounds. Usyk was really frustrated and couldn't quite get his range right with Tyson. And like I say, I feel like that shot landed and all of a sudden Usyk got his range and it started to flip. The first 6 rounds, I think I had it 4-2 to Fury. And then after that, I kind of stopped counting and was just enjoying the boxing and the ups and downs. And yeah, like I say, just when Fury's on, he's on, and he looks so good and he looks unbeatable. But there were moments in there where it's just like, oh, Usyk's gonna knock him out. There was those few bits where Tyson just switches off a little bit, and Usyk was able to take advantage of that. And then just towards those sort of later rounds, it was kind of Usyk taking over. He just found his range, got his range nice, and just landing the more devastating shots. And Fury still looked good. He was still moving well, but it definitely taken it out of him by that point, and wasn't moving like he was in those first 6 rounds.
I mean, to be fair, I personally think that Usyk got the first 3 rounds. I think where Tyson started to take over, you're right, he was using his feet, he was getting himself out of trouble, using them upper body, the trunk defences. I mean, the flow of that, he was really enjoying himself, and then the more he enjoyed himself, the more the crowd enjoyed themselves, I should say. And yeah, the more he flowed. What I will say is, though, is Usyk was definitely slowly chipping away at the body. You could see that was... Listen, we all know that the way to stop someone moving is to just keep working and working away at the body. I thought, actually, chop down the tree, and, he had to be patient. He had to do a lot more work. But yeah, I think he was relentless in terms of chopping down the tree and applying the pressure. I do think that when Fury switched on, like you say, he is incredible. That lovely long jab. Tell you what I did like, those uppercuts. And at one point, he's thrown the uppercut and he's like, you know when you say you're admiring your work?
Oh, yeah. No, he knows how to please the crowd, doesn't he, Fury? And he knows how to admire his work, that's for sure. And that's the thing. I think that's why people like him. People like that flamboyancy about Fury, because it is entertaining and it is fun to watch. And the way that he does it so tongue-in-cheek. It doesn't come across egotistical when he does it, like we can see in some other fighters. But when he does it, it's tongue in cheek and it's cheeky and it's fun, and it's, he's just got that way about him, which is why, people do love him, and people do also love to hate him because of that cheekiness, and I think it's really, really good quality to have, and it works for Fury. And when he's like that and he's on, wow, he's unstoppable. But unfortunately, like I say, the best man did win in the end, and he got chipped away. And like I say, he worked to that body. Usyk was setting up those traps early on. So as much as he was maybe getting a little bit frustrated, he's every round up in the pace. He didn't start at 100%. He started at 60% and then 65%. As rounds went on, his pace just got higher and higher. And for a heavyweight fight, the pace was phenomenal throughout. You don't see many heavyweight fights at that kind of pace, you know, that many punches thrown. It's so I think that's also why, you know, the fight was so entertaining to watch, because there was always something happening.
Yeah, absolutely. There has been some criticism. Listen, social media, people are so two-faced. They are so two-faced, Raven. You know, all the build-up, obviously, when we were in the press bit and then we were in and out of the press bit, you can hear people talking and everyone is excited and everyone's backing Fury. There was criticism about his showboating. Personally, I don't mind it. I think he is a quality enough boxer to be able to do that. But I also think that it's natural. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it's natural and it just...
Yeah, it's part of his personality.
100%. And I think even Usyk said there is an off-screen, off-camera Fury, and then love him or hate him, when he gets on, like you said, he is a performer, and actually that's what makes him really great.
Yeah, and as much as there's definitely that on-screen and off-screen Fury, I've seen him plenty of times off-screen to know that that is still who he is. He maybe magnifies it for the cameras, but that is still his character, you know. He doesn't change who he is at all. He's very like that, and when you're around him, he's very much like that as well. You know, I say, let me know, if you lived with him, it'd be hard work to live with someone that's like that all the time, but he really is. But definitely magnifies it for the cameras and becomes even more so that. But like you say, that's why he's so good and so great at what he does, because he knows that it's a performance as well. You know, it's not all just about the boxing, it's about that entertainment side, all of that. He's got and it's, you know, some people love it and some people hate it, and that's also why it's exciting, because it's, you know, he's not vanilla. He's not one of them where you take him or leave him. You're one or the other with him, you know, and that's why he does so well, and I think he thrives on that too.
I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I personally think, after seeing the Ngannou fight, and I know that wasn't a true representation, yada, 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 but I honestly think that that was one of the best performances that I've seen Tyson perform, and also the same with Usyk. I think the magnitude of the fight brought the absolute best out of them both. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think with the Ngannou one, I think he was definitely surprised at what Ngannou had. I don't think he'd taken the fight super seriously, and I think that is the kind of believing that you're too good, that you don't need to train for anybody. But, you know, he was still against a dangerous fight with Ngannou, and he quickly learnt that, I think. And I think that's why with the Usyk fight we saw an even better version of Fury, and why it was such a great fight, and why the pace was so good, because he did take it seriously and he knew, okay, I can't blow smoke up my arse all the time, I need to work hard as well. And I think, yeah, I think it was just a really good performance, and we've seen a great Fury, and we've seen a phenomenal Usyk to be able to bring up a performance like that.
Most definitely. Isn't it the case, though, that you're a boxer? Isn't it the case that sometimes, and no disrespect to Ngannou, he came from MMA, no one was really expecting that much from him. Isn't it harder, though, to get up for that sort of fight if you don't think your opponent's half decent? Do you know what I mean? Isn't it the case that it's harder?
Yeah, 100%. You know, you can never overlook anyone, though. That's what you've got to learn in the game, because that person standing opposite you is going to try and knock you out. But, you know, even at those levels, when you know you're fighting a journeyman, journeywoman, and it's kind of like you've got to get up and train, but it's having the bigger picture in your mind. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to win this next fight, and I could probably go and fight them tomorrow without a training camp and still win. But it's laying all the foundations for those tougher fights down the road. So if I've put that work in now, when I get to my world title fight, or when I'm against another undisputed fighter, I've done all those things for every single camp and got better every single, even if it's just a percentage in fitness, in skill, in technique, whatever it is, you've put the time and effort into every single camp. and got better each time. And that's why it's always really important not to overlook it and look at it as in, well, this just means I'm going to be better next time. I'll be in a better position when I start camp next time.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, like we said, I think two of the most intelligent boxers fought on Saturday night. But let's talk about the controversial round 9. So Usyk rocked Fury. He didn't go down, yet he was stumbling around the ring. He was not defending himself. His back was against the ropes. Some people are saying that Usyk got robbed of a KO that evening. Your thoughts?
I actually think it was very good reffing. Obviously, yes, you don't get standing 8 counts in professional boxing, but you can get counts if they're stood when the only reason they're still standing is because the ropes have stopped them from falling. And when you watch the video, when you see that happen, that is exactly what happened. If the corner and the ropes hadn't been there, Fury would have been on his arse, no doubt about that. And I've seen some things where it's like an image and it's like, see, the ropes are clearly holding him up. It's like, that's an image, that's not the full, you know, that's not the full picture, that's a snippet. And by the time the ropes stopped him from falling, yeah, they were keeping him up, but they stopped him from falling. So I actually think it was very good refereeing, because you can clearly see, had those, that the corner ropes not been there, he'd have been flat on his ass.
I'm going to have to disagree.
At the time, I wasn't sure.
At the time, I actually thought it was a good piece of reffing. Obviously, we were in the crowd. I think you were possibly closer than me. I think I was probably about 15 rows back. I wasn't at ringside. It looked quite fair. You know, you're watching it at the screen. You're trying to watch it ahead. Different to what you would have seen on the night. Having said that, I have gone back and now watched it. And I have to say, so a boxer is considered down, and this is an official rule book, if supported on the ropes of the boxing ring and is by the ref deemed to be unable to defend himself. There's obviously other things as well, but we'll just particularly look at that point. So Fury is under attack, and he was clearly being kept up by the ropes. He wasn't defending himself. And then at one point, he's fallen into the corner. And actually, when the ref goes to go in, I think he's going to stop it. And he doesn't stop it. He then gives him the count. Now, prior to, and it might be a very unpopular opinion, but prior to watching it on screen, I have to say, I thought, oh, yeah, that was a great bit of reffing. Personally, I think they robbed Usyk of a KO stoppage. Yeah. And it's hard to say.
It's funny how we see it opposite. At the time, I was thinking, why hasn't they stopped him doing a count? And then watching it back, I think it's good reffing. So it's funny how we both flipped, but in the opposite way.
I'll tell you what it was, Raven. Loads of people were really slagging off Fury. I was on the plane on the way back, and you could hear loads of people. And you know what? At the end of the day, he didn't win, but he gave a really great account of himself, and it was really annoying me. And I was just sort of sitting there simpering, because it's just like, give the kid a break. Do you know what I mean? He did what he did. He didn't win, but I personally think he gave a great account of himself. And I also thought that he had beat the count. Personally, now I don't think he did, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. I think it's funny, like you say that, it's like the fickleness of fans, you know, before the fight they'd have loved Fury and said no one could beat him, and then afterwards it's like, oh well, they're overrated anyway. It's that fickleness, and I don't think that's right, you know. And it's the old saying as well, styles make fights too, you know. Someone might be at the top, but they could get beat by number 3, but they beat number 2, and number 2 beats number 3. But number 2 doesn't beat number 1. It's like, depends on the style. Not every style beats every other style, and not that style wins against every other style, you know. So it's like one of them. But this is why I think fighters need to be fighting everyone, you know, not picking and choosing all the time. And that's where I think that frustration is, and why we've not seen Fury AJ yet. And you know how everyone was so surprised we even got to see Fury Usyk. But it's things like that, and like making those fights happen that need to happen. It's like you go back to, you know, the 80s, 90s, where they were doing it. They weren't afraid to lose because they knew they could come back in another fight and win.
But commercially,
it's one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, but commercially it's very different now, and that's the thing that I think has ruined professional boxing.
Yeah, totally, I agree. And it's like, that's why when I've been speaking to a lot of people, they're always like, oh, MMA have got it right, you know, because they're not worried about losing their O. It's not about losing their O, it's about being in good fights. And if you're in good fights and you make a good account for yourself, even if you lose, you're still going to come back and you can still, you know, challenge for the belt and stuff like that. And in a way, they've got a point. Obviously, there's a lot more politics in boxing than there is in the UFC and MMA, which is a shame. But it's true, you know, it's that era, it's that Mayweather era of being able to say you've got no O. And, you know, at the same time, nobody wants to lose, do they? Everyone wants to be able to keep that O and not lose a fight. But you've got to be able to put it on the line that you could lose it. You know, believe that you won't, but you've got to be able to put it on the line and know that you could. And I think that's what boxing needs again.
It's what we saw on Saturday. Honestly, it was one of the most exciting fights that I've ever seen. And also to the build-up, the people flip-flopping. I believe a lot of people truly did not know which way it was going to go. I saw a clip today, Frank Warren, really upset about the backlash that Fury's getting. Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen it. I did speak to Frank briefly afterwards, and you know, he had Fury up a round or two, and that just said obviously he's a bit down, but he'll bounce back.
Yeah, look at me calling him Frank like he's a mate.
Good old Uncle Frank.
It was really touching. Honestly, he said, you know, just give him a break, and to be fair, he's right. I think that, like I say, I think both gave great accounts of themselves, but Fury in particular, nobody can complain about how he performed. The other thing people are saying, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So Tyson was saying he had a secret weapon in his training camp, which was his father. We all know the little controversial thing that happened with the headbutt, you know, prior to the fight. But a lot of people are focusing on all the voices that were in Tyson's corner. You've got obviously Sugar, you've got Andy Lee giving one bit of advice, and then you had Tyson's father giving a slightly different view. What are your thoughts on all of those voices being in the corner? And would you agree with what people are saying, that effectively John's behaviour in the ring, in the corner and outside the ring was tantamount to helping Tyson Fury lose?
Yeah, I'd say I've heard a lot of the same things about John Fury, corner work, and in the build-up as well in terms of his behaviour. And in my experience as well with your corner team, you generally, you know, it's good to have one voice. And if you have more voices, it's everything's calm and everyone's reiterating the same point. Where it gets dodgy is where you've got three people telling you three different things. If, like, there can be times in my corner where my coach is telling me something and then whoever's here and whoever's here is sort of repeating back the same thing. That's okay. You can have three voices when they're all on board. They all saying the same thing. Nothing's going to confuse you. You don't know who you're going to listen to. But when you've got three people saying completely different points of view, or they see it differently, or, you know, not really giving any advice, you don't need that. You know, he's in the biggest fight of the century. You don't need confusion in the corner. You need a calm corner that know exactly what to tell you to do, because they're seeing it from a different angle as you, to give you that advice. You know, that's what your corner team's for, to tell you the things that you can't quite see, where your weaknesses are and what to keep on utilising. You know, keep that hand up. You're letting it slip a bit. They're catching you with that hook every time you drop it. Or, you know, right, that body jab's working a treat. Fake it here and then keep targeting, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
they've got to all be in sync though, because then you're getting three things said, nothing's going to go in, and what's the point in need play?
Oh, you've turned. Your camera's completely turned around. So we were talking about how John Fury was making himself a little bit busy in the corner. And I have to agree with you. Raven. I've been in this situation as well, having three people shout, and then what you kind of tend to do is just blank whoever else out and try and find one true voice. But what I will say in his defense, for a lot of Tyson's career, he hasn't been able to go to his competitions, obviously, because he hasn't been allowed in the country. And do you think that enthusiasm, has just spilt out into, into the corner work?
Yeah, potentially. Like, say, if he's not been able to be at his other events, and then suddenly, it's probably one of the biggest fights of Tyson's life, Yeah, I could just imagine, my dad being so enthusiastic, and it's maybe that's part of it. But I think it's the stuff outside of the ring where it doesn't help his cause.
Yeah, and I wonder, and again, this is something I was also overhearing on the way home, behind the scenes, that they wondered if that played a part in, and that would suggest then that things were going to go Tyson's way, and no one's trying to say that there was going to be, that Usyk was going to get robbed, but people are sort of saying, if maybe John had kept his head to himself, that maybe things would have turned out differently. I'm not sure that's the case, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's one of them you can never look back and be like, oh, what if this didn't happen? Because you can't go back, can you? But I know Fury sort of said, the team was saying he was up. But in a fight like that, you can't really read it that you're up. You've got to just look at it as that you're not up, and you need to do everything you can in especially the last few rounds. They can really change the fight. And in a fight that was as close as that one at times, you've got to, even if you feel like you may have done enough, you've got to go, right, okay, let's say they've given it to the other person, just in case, because that could be a possibility.
Effectively, you're saying you've got to leave it in the ring, because I have seen footage where he is being told that he's basically up, but then doesn't he have to take part of the responsibility, like you've just said, that you can't just rely on the team. You've got to put in 110, 15, 20% just to leave no doubt in the judge's mind.
Yeah, I think you do. You've got to feel it in the fight. Although you're saying that, there's times where you feel like, oh, you're not doing so well, and you watch it back and listening to everyone around you, and they've been telling you, no, that was really good. You're completely dominating, but it can feel different in there. So that's when you do need, your team around you to tell you how it actually is. But you can't be in rose-tinted glasses. You have to be really honest about what's happening, because as the fighter, you don't necessarily feel what's going on as a true reflection as what is actually going on sometimes, especially when the fight's close. But I think if you feel like you're not doing enough or anything like, or if it's close, you can feel it sometimes. Like I say, sometimes you can feel it and you can be completely dominating, but you're not realizing what you're doing. So you do have to always leave it in there. You can never, we've seen so many decisions from like amateurs to pros where it is the wrong decision. You can't leave it to the judge's hands. You've got to do everything you can to really cement that you are the winner, because you can't just expect the judges to be giving it to you, even if you do believe that you are a worthy winner and you did do enough and all of that. You've got to, that's one thing I've definitely learned in my experience, like never leave it to chance, never let it be undenied. Always make sure you're doing as much as you can every time you get in there, every round, every second, to make sure that you do win.
I mean, even if that was a draw, I mean, take away obviously the 10-8 round in round 9. Alexander, I always want to call him Alex. That's not the way you say it. Alexander Usyk, you know, he had the more, let's say, eye-catching shots. And then we both know that if it is equal, they're looking at the person that pushes the fight. They're looking at the person with the more eye-catching shots. And unfortunately for Tyson, that was Usyk on the night. But like I say, I thought it was an absolutely tremendous fight. Well worth the visit. Well worth people's hard-earned money, in my opinion.
Massively worth it, for sure. Great event, and was amazing to be able to be there. Such an amazing event as well.